In the tradition of Malcolm X, peace be unto you. If you examine for yourself, and I'm sure many of you have, what most African American YouTube channels content is, you will find a variety of formats, each expressing an opinion about some kind of social phenomena, each differing, each competing with the other for subscribers or for monetization, and lacking nearly all socially redeeming value. And by socially redeeming value, what I mean is that they are not aiding in concentrating African American consciousness on the ground at the grassroots level on pragmatic ways that they can organize to increase their political leverage, increase their educational success, and increase their economic success. Now, by no means am I categorizing all African American YouTube channels in that way. Something that I recognized since July 26th, when several coups d'etats had preceded the coup d'etat that occurred in the country of Niger, is that most African American channels that are based upon a consciousness format, like this person named Sonnetter, the House of Consciousness, have not even mentioned, have not even analyzed why there have been 3 coups d'etats in the ex-French colonies of West Africa: Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Not one of them. And in fact, as I said, most African American channels have not touched upon the significance of the revolutions taking place in South Africa, as it helps to develop the BRICS organization, which has expanded now from 5 nations to about 9 or 10 nations. Not one mentioned. And these are people who highlight their efforts to talk about, and I really want to emphasize talk about, ancient Egypt. When they come together, if they come together, they come together to actually manufacture ignorance. My analysis has led me to conclude that they are the internet version of counterintelligence, COINTELPRO operations, similar to the ones that were employed to undermine positive African American organizations in the 1960s. Now, we know there were other versions, lighter versions of COINTELPRO going back to Marcus Garvey. And we also know that people who were defined by these agencies as a threat, many of them were assassinated. They were killed. On the other hand, there are many others who are the head of COINTELPRO, or counterintelligence organizations that is set up by agencies, paid to operate, paid to mouth ridiculous formats. They live to a ripe old age, because we know from history what happens to leaders who are authentic, who are sincere. These individuals are a good example of why Brother Malcolm X tried to establish an organization which he defined as the United African American Organizations, UAAO. Because he established a very strong point that ideological differences between African American organizations and religious denominations cannot bring us together. They will continue to divide us as they have divided us for over 100 years. And so we must, according to his plan, meet on the simple principle of unity and pragmatic problem solving under the canopy of the United African American Organizations, the UAAO. Now, outside of that forum, one can indulge in their ideological preferences or their religious preferences. So the organization that Malcolm X had in mind was not one to ask a person to drop his or her beliefs, but to understand that they are just simply beliefs, and that there remains pragmatic issues that need to be addressed. That is to say, how do we solve local social problems? How do we do that effectively? So, outside of meetings between members of a union of African American organizations, we talk about pragmatic methods for solving objective problems, material problems. Otherwise, he perceived that there is no hope for African American people in the United States. There's so much division. And you may well know that W.E.B. Du Bois wrote that we can't win. We cannot win against white supremacy. That was the level of his pessimism by the time he had left and went on to Ghana. And he wrote it in response to a letter from a friend of his. There is a saying written by a philosopher, a famous philosopher of politics, and I quote, "People will act in ways that could not be otherwise," end quote. There are behaviors that are grounded in our biology. That's a given. So we put that to the side. But there are also behaviors that become habitual as a consequence of social engineering. They are constructions. We learn to conform through the institutions that we are members of, like the family, schools, religious organizations, and so forth. And it takes time to form habits such as those. And so, given human nature, which is implied in that quote that I cited to you, given human nature, it is very difficult, very, very difficult to bring a large group of people together in unity. And that is our problem today. More than ever, we need to really take a serious look at Brother Malcolm X's proposal, his idea of a organization in which we can meet, put aside our ideological and religious differences, our gender differences, while in that forum so that we can address seriously problems that we have. And understand that most large African American organizations and churches are infiltrated. Malcolm spoke on that on many occasions. Even the Nation of Islam, with all of its Fruit of Islam or structure, was infiltrated, thoroughly infiltrated by the police, by informants, by the FBI, such that they knew exactly what was being planned at the top of that organization, and even at times worked with that organization, cooperatively worked with that organization to accomplish certain ends that were not in the best interest of the black community, one of which was the assassination of Brother Malcolm X. So just do a survey of your own. Just glide through what some people call the YouTube ghetto, where you get some of the most fantastic, absurd, trashy content, and then glide toward the other direction and look at the channels where there's individuals articulating their opinions and their beliefs, and do a content analysis of your own. And you will find that those channels are the concrete example of why we need to reevaluate, to take another look at the idea that Brother Malcolm X had to unify African Americans so that they can pragmatically address, not ideologically, not philosophically, but pragmatically address local social problems without being brought down by informants or agencies that would use us for their own political agendas. I am Dr. Stephen Nur Ahmed. Peace be unto you.